A new employee, huh? You show your face here even after being late? On the morning of his first day at work, Edward, my grandson, set off for the company full of excitement, only to return home in tears just 30 minutes later. What happened? Nothing. Sensing something was off, I quietly looked at Edward's back. There was a piece of paper taped to him that read, "Incompetent." Shaking with anger, I immediately made up my mind to head to the company. Just wait. I'm going to march right into the president's office. Edward, do not worry. Grandpa will take care of this right away. Placing my hand on Edward's shoulder, I continued to speak calmly. There are still people on my side in that company. And more importantly, I have that document. Edward looked at me with a puzzled expression, but I just gave him a reassuring smile. President Kennedy, your reckless behavior ends here. To protect the company and Edward, I will take a stand. The bonds I share with my former colleagues and the countless pieces of evidence accumulated through years of management, with these as my weapons, I will set the company on the right path, no matter what. Come on, let us go. Leave it to Grandpa. With renewed determination, I put on my jacket. A quiet yet unwavering resolve spread throughout my body, preparing me for the battle ahead. My name is Kenneth Miller. At 66 years old, I am the chairman of Creative Vision, a major advertising agency. 40 years ago, I started this company from a small office, nurturing it into one of the industry's leading firms. My management philosophy is simple and clear. Respect individuality and value creativity. I firmly believe this is the only way to survive in the advertising world. By valuing each employee's ideas and encouraging free thinking, our company has consistently produced innovative advertisements, earning the trust of our clients. 5 years ago, at the age of 65, I stepped down as president and became chairman. At that time, I chose Ryan Kennedy as my successor. Back then, he was a man who understood my philosophy and promised to carry it on. But now, that promise is on the verge of being broken. I have one grandson, Edward. Since he was young, he showed interest in my work, saying, "I want to be an advertising professional like Grandpa." Those words made me happier than anything else. Edward's talent is undeniable. He has a creative mind and a natural ability to connect with people. I am confident that he will leave a significant mark on this industry. Today is Edward's first day at work. I was supposed to be celebrating my grandson's big moment. But the sight of Edward when he came home was far from what I had envisioned. My grandson, sobbing, with the word "incompetent" stuck to his back. This is absolutely unforgivable. Once again, I rise to my feet. To protect the company, and above all, my beloved grandson. President Kennedy, I do not know what you are scheming, but I, Kenneth, will not remain silent. I will not let the company I built with my life head in the wrong direction. According to Edward, this morning's entrance ceremony was a nightmare from start to finish. As soon as the ceremony began, President Kennedy glared at the new employees with a harsh gaze. Gentlemen, abandon any naive thoughts. This is not a playground. Those who do not produce results have no place here. President Kennedy's cold voice echoed throughout the room. Edward said he couldn't help but shiver. Is this really the successor I chose? Surpassing disappointment, a surge of anger welled up within me. After that, the guidance from Marcus, the head of the HR department, began. Starting today, you are all members of society. Leave your student mindset behind. Listen to what you're told and always be mindful of your superiors' moods. Marcus continued speaking to the new employees in a strict tone, almost as if he were conducting a military drill. Edward felt suffocated and glanced around, only to see the other new employees looking down as well. Then, as if to deliver the final blow, Marcus said the following. It seems one of you got in through connections. Do not think you can get by on that. If you lack ability, you will be gone immediately. The moment Edward heard those words, he realized everything. The HR department already knew that he was the grandson of Chairman Miller. I clenched my fist. Edward had surely made it through the selection process on his own merits. And yet, to be treated like this. Unforgivable. Absolutely unforgivable. At that moment, I solidified my resolve. I will bring the company back on the right track, no matter what. To do that, I may need the strength of my former comrades. Yes, it might be time to reunite the legendary seven. Edward's story continued. After the entrance ceremony, the new employees were assigned to their respective departments. Edward was placed in the creative department, where he met a woman named Mary. "Oh, so you are the rumored grandson of Chairman Miller? Welcome." Despite her words, Mary's eyes were cold, and there was a hint of sarcasm in her tone. "Here, everyone is equal. Do not expect any special treatment." "Yes, I am not looking for special treatment. I just want to do my best on my own." "Good. Then let's get started. Redo this proposal within 30 minutes. Saying this, Mary handed Edward a thick proposal. Though surprised, Edward put his best effort into the task. However, 30 minutes later, Mary scoffed. "What is this? Even an elementary school student could do better. Do it over. This time, finish it within 15 minutes, and Edward was ordered to redo it repeatedly, continuing to work without even having lunch. The other new employees looked at Edward with cold, judgmental eyes. "I knew it, a nepotism hire is useless. He only got in because he's Chairman Miller's grandson. Must be nice." Those remarks reached Edward's ears. However, he endured with all his might. He believed it was his chance to prove himself. In the afternoon, Mary gave Edward a new task. "Hey, the copier is out of toner. Go replace it." "Yes, understood." The moment Edward got up, Mary flashed a meaningful smile. When Edward arrived at the copy room, he was shocked by the scene. Several new employees were already standing there. They had all been sent by Mary with the same instruction. Next to the copier was a sign that read, "Out of order." "Figures. I heard Mary pulls this kind of hazing every year. But no one dares to complain because she's one of Marcus's favorites." Edward stood there, stunned. Was this really the reality of the company he had once admired? However, giving up now was not an option. Edward reached out to the other new employees. "Hey, can we all work together to fix this machine?" At first, the others seemed hesitant, but slowly, inspired by Edward's positive attitude, they began to open up. Reading the manual together and trying various fixes, they gradually started to bond. And an hour later, the copier was finally working again. As they celebrated their success, Edward couldn't help but smile. But at that very moment, "What do you think you're doing? Taking this long just to fix a copier? This is completely unproductive." Mary burst into the room, yelling. The other new employees quickly scattered, but Edward remained rooted to the spot. "Mary, we work together to solve the problem. I believe that is also important work." "How cheeky. Since you are Chairman Miller's grandson, you should be able to handle twice no, 3 times the workload of others. That should be expected, right?" With those words, Mary shoved a pile of documents into Edward's arms. "Finish all of this by the end of the day. Overtime is a given." Edward simply nodded. Yet, a determined light shone in his eyes. Late into the night, Edward remained alone in the office, quietly working through the tasks. However, just as he was about to leave, something shocking happened. Edward felt something odd on his back and reached around to find a piece of paper stuck to it. When he peeled it off, he saw the word "incompetent" written in large letters. Tears welled up in Edward's eyes. All the emotions he had been holding back erupted at once. Having reached his breaking point, Edward ran out of the company and returned home. As I listened to Edward's story, my body trembled with rage. Such unreasonable treatment was absolutely unforgivable. At the same time, though, I couldn't help but wonder, why had President Kennedy changed the company's atmosphere so drastically? Could he have some other motive? There was something else that caught my attention. Edward mentioned the legendary 7. That referred to the 7 executives I trusted the most during my time as president. They were colleagues who shared my management philosophy and helped grow the company together. However, after I retired, one by one, they left the company. Now more than ever, I needed their strength to steer the company back on the right path and to protect Edward. I made up my mind. Tomorrow, I will confront President Kennedy directly in his office, and I will gather the legendary 7 once again. This battle, I must win. for Edward and for the future of every employee. But Edward's hardships only grew worse the next day. First thing in the morning, an emergency meeting was called for all employees. The conference room was filled with anxious murmurs. Then, President Kennedy appeared. "Ladies and gentlemen, our company is facing a crisis. At this rate, we could lose our competitive edge in the market." The room buzzed with nervous whispers. "Therefore, we will be accepting new project proposals. The person who submits the most outstanding plan will be given a special promotion. On the other hand, those whose proposals are deemed subpar, you know what that means." President Kennedy's sharp gaze swept over the employees. Everyone held their breath. "You have 1 week. Put in your best effort." When the meeting ended, the entire office was enveloped in a tense atmosphere. Edward desperately started brainstorming his proposal. "However, Edward, I have a special task just for you," Mary said with a malicious smile as she approached. "Since you're Chairman Miller's grandson, I am sure you must have brilliant ideas. You will submit 3 times the number of proposals as everyone else, and they are due tomorrow." 3 times? By tomorrow? That is too harsh." "Oh, you cannot do it. Then I guess it really was a nepotism hire." Edward gritted his teeth. No matter what, he had to complete this task. He stayed at the office all night, working tirelessly on his proposals. By the time morning came, he had somehow managed to finish 3 proposal documents. Fighting off sleep, Edward handed the proposals to Mary. Looks like you put in some effort, but let's see what the content is like." With that, Mary began reading through the proposals. "This one is interesting, especially this idea for an environmentally conscious advertising campaign. It's quite innovative." Hope sparkled in Edward's eyes. But that light was quickly extinguished. "Too bad. There is no way we can use this." With those words, Mary tossed the proposals onto the floor. "Why? You just said it was good." "Oh, do not get the wrong idea. I said it was a good idea, but it is far too impractical. The costs are way too high. But if you look at it in the long term..." Silence. "What do you know about running a company? In the end, it is just a bunch of unrealistic theories." Edward was left speechless. He could not deny his lack of experience, but he had done his best to come up with these ideas. "All right, your proposal is rejected. I will make sure to report to President Kennedy that you could not produce anything worthwhile." Edward's heart sank. Then, during lunch, something shocking happened. Edward was eating alone in the company cafeteria, feeling isolated. Suddenly, President Kennedy appeared. "Oh, you must be Edward. How is your proposal coming along?" Actually. "I see. I heard your proposal got rejected. It seems even being Chairman Miller's grandson does not give you any special treatment. But I did my best." "That is not enough. In this industry, you will not survive with just effort. I had high expectations for you." With those words, President Kennedy turned to leave. However, Edward gathered his courage and called out, "Wait, my proposal may have challenges in terms of feasibility, but its originality and creativity were acknowledged. It is not right to dismiss it entirely." President Kennedy stopped and slowly turned back. "Oh, a rebuttal? Interesting. Yes, I am confident in my proposal. If given the chance, I would like to present it." After thinking for a moment, President Kennedy smirked. "Fine. Present it during tomorrow's morning assembly in front of all the employees. If your proposal is deemed worthy, we will adopt it. But if you fail, you know what will happen, right?" Despite his nerves, Edward nodded firmly. The next morning, with all the employees watching, Edward stood on the podium. His hands were trembling with anxiety, but he knew he could not back down now. "The environmentally conscious advertising campaign I propose may involve significant initial investment. However, if we look at it in the long run," Edward explained passionately. But midway through, President Kennedy interrupted. "Hold on. Do you really think anyone would be convinced by that level of explanation?" But where are the concrete numbers? What about the market research results? What are the trends among competitors? Without that kind of data, you are just spouting dreams." Edward was at a loss for words. It was true he hadn't prepared specific data, Amateurs like you are a problem. Do you think the company can survive with such naive thinking? That can't be. Enough. Now I understand your value. You are nothing but a disappointment." With that, President Kennedy left the hall. Edward remained behind, exposed to the cold stares of the entire staff. I knew it. Just the limits of a nepotism hire, huh? Seriously, letting someone like that into the company is a failure on HR's part. Cold remarks from those around him kept blaming Edward. He just stood there, unable to do anything but hang his head. He realized that his lack of ability had ruined the opportunity he was given. A feeling of hopelessness overwhelmed him, convincing him that there might be no way to recover. Later that evening, Edward was summoned by Marcus. When he entered the office, Mary was there as well. "Edward, your failure this time cannot be overlooked. You have seriously damaged the company's reputation. That's right. Because of you, the entire creative department's evaluation has dropped. I am sorry. An apology won't cut it. You will write your resignation letter." What? Of course, keeping someone as incompetent as you here would affect the morale of other employees. But I still... Silence. I never expected anything from you in the first place. Just because you are Chairman Miller's grandson does not mean you get special treatment. Edward was speechless. He couldn't believe his dream was collapsing in such a way. At that moment, there was a knock at the door, and it opened. "Marcus, excuse me. I was making copies of Edward's proposal, and I found this." A member of the HR department handed Marcus a piece of paper. It was a part of Edward's proposal. "What is this?" Marcus glanced at the paper, and suddenly his expression changed. "This cannot be. This is... What is going on, Marcus?" Without answering, Marcus rushed out of the room. Mary quickly followed after him, looking alarmed. Edward was left standing there, still in shock, not knowing what had just happened. And that night, Edward returned home once again, tears streaming down his face. Seeing my grandson's state, I knew I had reached my limit. "That is enough, Edward. Grandpa will take care of everything." I made up my mind. Tomorrow, I will march into the president's office and uncover the truth. The next morning, I got ready early. I encouraged Edward and left the house. "Edward, do not worry. I will change this situation for sure. But Grandpa, it will be fine. Just believe in me." On the way to the company where I once served as president, countless thoughts raced through my mind. The struggles during the startup phase, the days spent growing the company, and the bonds forged with trusted colleagues. All of these memories now fueled my determination. When I arrived at the company, a security guard stopped me at the entrance. "I am sorry, sir, but I am Kenneth. I am the chairman of this company." The guard looked confused, but my authoritative presence compelled him to let me through. I stepped into the elevator and headed to the top floor. Even as the elevator ascended, my resolve remained unshaken. When the doors opened, familiar sights spread before me. However, the atmosphere was different. The vibrancy from before was gone. In front of the president's office, Anna, the secretary, stood in my way. "Mr. Miller, this is quite an unexpected visit. Let me see Mr. Kennedy." But Mr. Kennedy is currently... I cut Anna off and forcefully opened the door. Inside was President Kennedy. He looked visibly surprised. "Mr. Miller, what brings you here all of a sudden?" "Mr. Kennedy, we need to talk." He tried to regain his composure, but I could see the unease in his eyes. Please have a seat. I will get some tea." "I do not need it." "Mr. Kennedy, what exactly are you doing?" "What do you mean?" "Do not play dumb. I know about the bullying of new employees, the unfair evaluations, and the way you treated Edward. I have heard it all." For a moment, President Kennedy's face twisted, but he quickly composed himself. "Mr. Miller, that is a misunderstanding. We are simply implementing strict guidance." "Strict guidance? Do not make me laugh. You are trying to destroy everything I have built." "No, that is not." Silence. My shout reverberated throughout the room. President Kennedy froze and collapsed into his chair. "I chose you as my successor because I believed you would carry on my principles valuing individuality and nurturing creativity. That was supposed to be the strength of our company. But Mr. Miller, times have changed. We are in an era that demands efficiency. Efficiency? Do you think it is acceptable to trample on people's hearts for the sake of efficiency? President Kennedy could not respond and lowered his head. You are hiding something. Yesterday, when Marcus saw Edward's proposal, his reaction was strange. Something is off. President Kennedy's face turned pale. Speak. Tell me everything. At first, he remained silent, but eventually, overwhelmed by my intimidating presence, he gave in. Understood. I will tell you. Taking a deep breath, President Kennedy began to speak. The truth is, our company is in a critical situation. We have been losing major clients one after another, and our performance is plummeting. At this rate, bankruptcy is only a matter of time. What did you say? I was desperate. I needed to find a way to save the company. So, I devised a plan. What kind of plan? To buy up the company's shares and sell them to a major advertising agency. That way, the company would survive, and employees' jobs would be secured. Ridiculous. But to achieve that, I needed to temporarily lower the company's value. So, I deliberately worsened the internal atmosphere. You mean to tell me you bullied employees and even used Edward for that purpose? I am sorry, but I thought this was the best course of action. I trembled with anger. The best? Are you kidding me? Sacrificing the employees for your own scheme, how is that the best? But if we continue like this… Silence! I slammed my hand on the desk. The loud sound made President Kennedy shrink back. I am disappointed in you. I will never forgive you for trying to sell off the company I built this way. But it is too late. Most of the shares have already. At that moment, the door burst open. Mr. Kennedy, this is urgent. Marcus rushed in, looking flustered. Marcus, what is going on? Edward's proposal. It is incredible. What? Yesterday's presentation did not include detailed data or market analysis, but I found it all in the complete document. Everything was meticulously calculated. If we implement this, our company will undoubtedly… Stop, Marcus. Do not say another word. But Marcus could not contain his excitement. No, Mr. Kennedy. We cannot keep this a secret. With this proposal, our company can definitely… Quiet. President Kennedy's furious outburst echoed through the room. Stunned, Marcus fell silent. Mr. Kennedy, what is the meaning of this? Yeah. President Kennedy did not respond. I turned to Marcus. Marcus, continue. Glancing nervously at President Kennedy, Marcus hesitantly spoke. Yes, Edward's proposal contains a comprehensive plan to revitalize our company. It outlines a new environmentally conscious advertising approach, a large-scale campaign utilizing it, and even specific numerical targets. I see. And what is your evaluation of the proposal? To be honest, it is nothing short of brilliant. If we implement it, our company will not only recover but could even become a leader in the industry. I glared at President Kennedy. Mr. Kennedy, you knew about this, didn't you? He remained silent, his head bowed. Why? Why did you try to crush such an excellent proposal? After a long silence, President Kennedy finally spoke. I had no choice left. What do you mean? Negotiations with a major advertising agency are already underway. They own the majority of our shares. If I back out now, I will lose everything. Lose everything? Are you trying to sell the company for your own gain? No, I am doing it for the company. For the company? Do not make me laugh. You betrayed both the company and the employees for your own self-preservation. President Kennedy was at a loss for words and could only lower his head. Just then, the door swung open again. Mr. Kennedy, we have a problem. Edward's proposal is circulating within the company. What? It is causing a huge reaction among the employees. Everyone seems to want the proposal to be implemented. President Kennedy's face turned pale. Impossible. Who leaked it? At that moment, I was certain. This was Edward's strategy all along. His failure yesterday had been part of his plan. Edward believed in the value of his proposal, so he made sure it would reach the eyes of the employees, proving its worth. Mr. Kennedy, it is over. Your plan has failed. No, I am not giving up yet. Suddenly, President Kennedy stood up and tried to dash out of the room. However, as soon as he opened the door, he found a large group of employees standing there. Mr. Miller. Welcome back, Mr. Miller. We support you, Mr. Miller. President Kennedy froze in his tracks. I slowly stood up and faced the employees. Everyone, listen to me. Our company is indeed facing a crisis, but we have the strength to overcome it. Those who have seen Edward's proposal should understand that. The employees nodded in agreement. We will not sell this company. We will overcome this crisis with our own strength. For that, I once again ask for your support. Mr. Miller. We will follow you, Mr. Miller. At that moment, the elevator doors opened, and stepping out were the legendary 7. Oh, you came. The colleagues who once stood by my side as we built the company. They approached me with smiles. Mr. Miller, when you called, how could we refuse? You plan to rebuild the company, right? Let us help too. Overwhelmed with emotion, tears welled up in my eyes. Thank you, everyone. Now, our battle begins. We will protect this company, our employees' happiness, and our dreams no matter what. A loud cheer erupted from the employees. President Kennedy stood there, paralyzed, unable to do anything. From this day forward, creative vision would undergo a major transformation. And at the heart of that change was none other than my grandson, Edward. Several days had passed since the confrontation in the president's office. The company was now in the midst of a great transformation. Together with Edward, I stood before the employees. Everyone, I sincerely apologize for the recent confusion and thank you for your continued support. I also want to express my deepest gratitude to all of you, Edward said. The employees' faces showed a mix of anxiety and anticipation. Most of them still did not fully grasp the situation. First, let me explain the current state of affairs. I detailed former President Kennedy's plan, the company's critical situation, and the true value of Edward's proposal. Gradually, the employees' expressions changed to one of understanding and surprise. My proposal is not just an environmental campaign. It holds the potential to change the future of our company. Edward continued speaking with confidence. His eyes shone with the same passion I once had. This project includes an innovative advertising method that combines digital technology with environmental protection. It will effectively showcase our clients' commitment to sustainability while also raising environmental awareness among consumers. Excited murmurs started spreading among the employees. However, to make this plan a reality, I need everyone's cooperation. I looked at the employees with a serious expression. We are at a crossroads. Do we sell the company, or do we shape our own future with our own hands? A brief silence enveloped the room. Then, one of the employees stood up. I am proud to work at this company with Mr. Miller. I will gladly take on this new challenge. With those words, more and more employees began to show their support. Edward's proposal is truly amazing. I will do everything I can to help. I want to chase my dreams at this company once again. I am ready to do whatever it takes. My heart swelled with emotion. This was the company I had cherished for so many years, the spirit I had always valued. Thank you, everyone. Now, let us take action. We immediately began crafting a concrete plan to rebuild the company, centered around Edward's proposal. The legendary 7 also agreed to fully support us, each contributing from their area of expertise. A few days later, we arranged a meeting with the executives of a major corporation. This was the same company that former President Kennedy had been negotiating with to sell our company. When we entered the meeting room, the executives of the other company were already waiting. Their expressions showed a mix of confidence and calculation. Mr. Miller, it has been a while. We are aware of your company's difficulties. If you accept our proposal. No, we decline. The executive's expressions froze for a moment. But if you continue like this, your company will. We are embarking on a new challenge. Edward stepped forward, brimming with confidence, and began explaining his idea. He passionately outlined the new advertising method focused on environmental awareness. Utilizing digital technology, the concept aimed to effectively promote clients' products and services while also raising consumers' environmental consciousness. It was a groundbreaking idea that could revolutionize the advertising industry. At first, the executives looked skeptical, but gradually their interest grew. I see. This is intriguing. Indeed, it seems to align with current market demands. When Edward finished, the executives eagerly asked questions. Edward remained calm, responding accurately and confidently. Watching him, I could not help but feel a surge of pride. My grandson was truly becoming a skilled advertising professional. After the meeting, as we waited for the results, Edward voiced his concern. Do you think it will work out? Do not worry. You did an outstanding job. After a while, Anna burst into the room, visibly excited. Mr. Miller, I have great news. What happened? The company we just met with contacted us. They have decided to relinquish all of their shares. Not only that, they proposed a large-scale joint project based on Edward's plan. Edward and I could not help but embrace in celebration. We did it, Edward. Grandpa, thank you. At that moment, we could feel that our company's future was moving in a positive direction. That evening, we gathered all employees to share the news. The room erupted with cheers and applause. In their eyes, I could see a renewed sense of hope. Everyone, this is not the end. On the contrary, it is just the beginning. Together, let us once again push this company to the top of the industry. As I looked around the energized room, I was convinced this company still held great potential. And the ones who would turn that potential into reality were these dedicated employees, united as one. The road to rebuilding the company had just begun. But the events of this day gave all of us newfound hope and courage. And this experience will undoubtedly become a great asset for the company and each employee. I smiled quietly. The battle toward a second founding is far from over. However, there is nothing left to fear. We have creativity, passion, and most importantly, a strong bond. That is the true strength of creative vision. About a month had passed since signs of the company's recovery began to appear. Creative Vision was fully committed to building a new business model centered around Edward's proposal. However, many challenges still remained. One day, I received a concerning report. Mr. Miller, it's serious. It looks like former President Kennedy is making a move. What? What do you mean? We have information that he has been in contact with a major advertising agency. It seems he is trying to sell our company's confidential information. I furrowed my brow. I had anticipated that Kennedy might be scheming, but I did not expect it to go this far. Understood. We need to formulate a response immediately. I promptly called an emergency meeting. Edward, the legendary Seven, and the heads of the major departments gathered. Everyone, you are aware of the situation. If we do not stop Kennedy's actions, all our efforts could be in vain. But how can we stop him? Taking legal action would be the most secure approach. No, that would take too long. We need a quicker solution. As the discussion heated up, I quietly stood up. I have a good idea. Everyone's attention focused on me. What is Kennedy really after? It is not about destroying the company. It is about protecting himself and his own interests. In that case, we still have a chance. What do you mean, Grandpa? We will give him what he wants, but on our terms. I explained the detailed plan. It was a risky, almost daring strategy, but if successful, it could turn the situation around in one move. Once everyone agreed, we moved forward with the plan. First, we made contact with former President Kennedy. Though cautious, he agreed to meet with me. Mr. Miller, what brings you here? Mr. Kennedy, I know what you have been doing. Kennedy flinched for a moment, but quickly composed himself. I do not know what you are talking about. Listen, Mr. Kennedy, I am not angry at you. In fact, I am somewhat grateful. What do you mean? Thanks to you, the company has started moving in a new direction. Because of that, I want to give you a new opportunity. A look of suspicion crossed Kennedy's face. I will hand over all of our company's confidential information to you. What do you mean by that? There is only one condition. Allow us to be present at your negotiation meeting with the advertising agency you have been contacting. Kennedy could not hide his confusion. However, my proposal was too tempting for him to resist. Fine. I will accept that condition. A few days later, we joined former President Kennedy at the negotiation meeting with a major advertising agency. Well, this is surprising. We did not hear that Chairman Miller would be joining us. Yes, actually. Allow me to explain. I spoke calmly. I intend to provide your company with all the information and technology we possess. The eyes of CEO Nelson from the advertising agency lit up. That is excellent. Then, let us proceed. However, there is one condition. The atmosphere in the room shifted. Rather than absorbing our company, I would like to form a partnership on equal terms. But that would. At that moment, Edward stepped forward. If we combine your strengths with our creativity, we can revolutionize the industry. Specifically, I have a plan in mind. Edward began explaining the new environmentally conscious advertising method and the concrete strategies to make it happen. His words carried conviction, captivating everyone present. CEO Nelson gradually showed interest. I see, this is certainly intriguing. Former President Kennedy stood there, dumbfounded. His plan had completely backfired. When Edward finished his presentation, CEO Nelson took a moment to think deeply. Understood. We will accept your proposal. A sense of relief spread throughout the room. Thank you. We will deliver outstanding results, I assure you. After signing the contract, a new partnership was officially established. As we left the room, former President Kennedy approached me. Mr. Miller, Mr. Kennedy, your talent is real. You just used it the wrong way. Why not start over with us? Tears welled up in Kennedy's eyes. Yes, thank you. From that day forward, Creative Vision made a significant leap forward. The new environmentally friendly advertising methods received high praise from clients, leading to the acquisition of numerous large-scale projects. The atmosphere within the company also transformed. Employees worked with renewed energy, fully expressing their creativity. 6 months later, I was talking with Edward in the president's office. Edward, you did a great job. No, it was all thanks to you, Grandpa. No, this victory belongs to you. Without you, this company would not have survived. Edward gave a bashful smile. Now it is time to make a decision. A decision? Yes. I believe I have done enough. I have found someone who can carry the company's future. No way. Yes, I want you to take over as president. Edward was so shocked he could not find the words. But I am still inexperienced. It is fine. You have the talent. More importantly, you truly love this company and its employees. That is enough. Tears filled Edward's eyes. Understood. I will do my best. Good. I have high expectations for you. That evening, we gathered all the employees to make the announcement. Everyone, I have an important announcement to make today. With the employees watching intently, I continued. I appoint Edward as the next president. After a brief moment of silence, a loud round of applause erupted. Congratulations. With Edward, we can feel at ease. Edward stepped forward, looking a bit tense. Everyone, I am still inexperienced, but I will give my all for this company and for all of you. I humbly ask for your support. Another wave of applause filled the room. I watched with a gentle smile. At that moment, I was certain. The future of this company was bright. With Edward and the employees working together as one, they would surely forge a new era. My role was complete. Now, I would leave it to the younger generation and watch over them. But that was not a sad thing at all. In fact, it was the greatest happiness I could imagine. Now, the new creative vision sets sail. Let us work together to create a brilliant future. As the room filled with cheers and applause, I quietly smiled. This moment was the greatest victory of my life. 3 months had passed since Edward took on the role of president. Creative Vision had revolutionized the industry with its new environmentally conscious advertising methods. Client feedback was overwhelmingly positive, and the company's performance was rapidly recovering. One day, I received a call from Edward. When I entered the president's office, I found Edward looking a bit worn out. Grandpa, I need some advice. What is it? Is there a problem? Well, it is not exactly a problem, but… After a brief hesitation, Edward continued. Actually, I am thinking of starting a new project, but it is a bit risky. Oh, what kind of project? Edward passionately began explaining. It was an ambitious project to develop an innovative advertising system using AI technology. The idea was to analyze individual consumers' preferences and behavior patterns to deliver optimal ads at the right time. If it works, it would greatly enhance the effectiveness of advertising. But the development costs are enormous, and if it fails, it could seriously impact the company's finances. As I listened to Edward, I smiled calmly. "Edward, are you scared?" "To be honest, yes, I am." "I see, but feeling that fear is important." "What do you mean?" "There are two extremes: those who recklessly charge ahead without fear of risk, and those who are so afraid that they do nothing. True leadership lies somewhere in between." I stood up and looked out the window. "I chose you as president because I believe you have that quality. You feel fear, but still have the courage to push forward. That is what makes a true leader." A spark of determination appeared in Edward's eyes. "Grandpa, now the decision is yours. Whatever you choose, I will support you." After a moment of deep thought, Edward spoke with renewed resolve. "I will do it. I will move forward with this project." "I see. I am counting on you." From that day on, the company dedicated itself to the new project. The development team worked late into the night, often staying overnight at the office. Edward took the lead, directing the project from the front lines. 1 year after the project began, the new system was finally completed. On the day of the press conference, Edward stood on the stage with a tense expression. "Today, our company will unveil a new system that will revolutionize the advertising industry." As Edward spoke, the reporters eagerly took notes. During the Q&A session, sharp questions came flying in. "Regarding the handling of personal data, are there any privacy concerns?" "Yes, that is a valid point. From the development stage, we made privacy protection our top priority." Specifically, Edward answered each question precisely and confidently. No longer the inexperienced new employee, he now exuded the presence of a composed leader. After the press conference, the industry was abuzz with excitement. Many companies began showing interest in adopting the new system. 6 months after the system was put into operation, Creative Vision's performance had achieved remarkable growth. One day, Edward visited my house. "Grandpa, I have some news." "Oh, what is it?" "Actually, we are moving forward with an overseas expansion. A major American company has proposed a partnership." I could not hide my surprise. "Expanding abroad, that is fantastic. But I am still unsure. Maybe we should focus on solidifying our foundation in Japan first." I placed a hand on Edward's shoulder. "Edward, do you remember? A year ago, when you made the decision to start that project?" "Yes." "Your decision back then led to today's success. It is the same this time. Trust your own judgment." Edward nodded deeply. "Understood. I will move forward with the overseas expansion." A year after that decision, Creative Vision had grown into a global advertising company. One day, I decided to visit the company after a long time. When I entered the lobby, a large sign greeted me: "World's #1 Advertising Agency." The employees were full of energy, and the once gloomy atmosphere was nowhere to be found. When I entered the president's office, Edward greeted me with a smile. "Grandpa, thank you for coming." "You have become impressive, Edward." "It is all thanks to you, Grandpa." "No, it is your own strength that brought you here." As I gazed out the window, I felt a deep sense of satisfaction. This company was undoubtedly moving in the right direction, and it was Edward himself who was leading it. "Edward, I think I can finally return to a peaceful retirement." "Grandpa, but I will still drop by from time to time. Watching your success has become my greatest joy." Edward nodded with a smile. That evening, I walked home with a calm and content heart. The hardships of the past and the joy of overcoming them, all of it now felt like fond memories. And above all, seeing Edward's growth was the greatest happiness of my life. The future of Creative Vision would surely be a bright one. I looked up at the sky and took a deep breath. A sense of fulfillment washed over me, knowing I had completed the final mission of my life with success. Former President Kennedy's downfall was swift. After being ousted from Creative Vision, he used his connections to join a mid-sized advertising agency, But his time there did not last long. Clinging to his past successes, Kennedy struggled to adapt to the new environment. His aggressive methods and self-centered attitude created friction at his new workplace. One day, during an important meeting with a key client, Kennedy made a fatal mistake. He proposed an outdated campaign promoting mass consumption to a client who prioritized environmental responsibility. The client was furious and immediately canceled the contract. This blunder led to Kennedy being dismissed from the company. However, his reputation in the industry had already plummeted, and no other company was willing to hire him. Financially cornered, Kennedy resorted to illegal information trading as a last resort. But his actions were soon exposed. He was arrested and put on trial. During the trial, Kennedy tearfully confessed, I just wanted to be recognized." However, his words were in vain, and he was sentenced to prison. After his release, Kennedy struggled with social stigma and ended up working at a small, privately run advertising office. The glory he once knew had become a distant memory, and his days were now filled with monotonous tasks. One day, while walking through the city, he saw a large screen displaying Creative Vision's latest commercial. There, confidently featured, was Edward, the very person Kennedy once tried to cast aside. Kennedy let out a deep sigh and quietly looked away. Realizing his mistakes and reflecting on the past he could never reclaim, he silently shed tears. 5 years had passed since Edward became president. Creative Vision had firmly established itself as a global advertising giant. The innovative, environmentally conscious advertising methods were highly praised by clients worldwide, securing one major project after another. I, Kenneth, enjoyed a peaceful retirement, occasionally visiting the company to watch Edward's progress. One day, Edward sent me a special invitation. It was for the 50th anniversary celebration of Creative Vision. When I arrived at the venue, I saw employees, clients, and industry professionals from around the world gathered. Edward stood on stage and began his speech. Today, I would like to express my heartfelt gratitude to everyone who has gathered here to celebrate the 50th anniversary of Creative Vision. As the room fell silent, Edward continued. This company was built from the ground up by my grandfather, Kenneth. His philosophy of valuing individuality and respecting creativity remains the core of our company. I listened with a gentle smile. 5 years ago, our company faced a crisis. But thanks to my grandfather's guidance and the tireless efforts of our employees, we overcame it. The audience erupted into applause. And now, we continue to take on new challenges. From AI-powered advertising systems to business models that balance environmental protection with economic growth, these are all extensions of the founder's philosophy, evolved for the future. Edward paused briefly and looked around the room. However, our journey has just begun. We will continue creating advertisements that bring smiles and hope to people around the world. I kindly ask for your continued support and cooperation. As thunderous applause filled the hall, Edward stepped down from the stage. He walked straight toward me. "Grandpa, thank you for coming. That was an impressive speech, Edward." Edward smiled sheepishly. "It is all because of you, Grandpa. Everything you taught me shaped who I am today." I placed a hand on his shoulder. "No, that is not quite right. I may have shown you the path, but it was you who walked it and forged new ones. You did it on your own." Tears glistened in Edward's eyes. "Grandpa." "Edward, I am truly proud of you. You have become a far greater leader than I ever imagined." At that moment, a young employee approached us. "Mr. Miller, I have an idea for a new project I would like to discuss." Edward glanced at me with a slightly apologetic look. "Go on. That is your responsibility." Edward flashed a grateful smile and walked away with the young employee. I quietly raised my champagne glass, watching Edward's back as he moved farther away. Gone was the timid new hire from years ago. Now stood a confident, resilient leader. As I looked around the venue, I saw the vibrant energy of the employees. In their eyes shone the spark of creativity and individuality I had always dreamed of. A deep sense of fulfillment washed over me as I smiled gently. The future of this company was secure. Edward and his team would undoubtedly lead it into a new era. That night, back at home, I gazed out the window from my study, reflecting on my life. It had been a series of challenges, but in the end, I reached the best possible outcome. Then, it suddenly dawned on me. Edward, my grandson, was my final and greatest creation in life. I closed my eyes peacefully, wrapped in a profound sense of happiness. From now on, I would quietly watch over the new world that Edward and his team would create. With that resolution in my heart, a soft smile appeared on my lips.